Afternoon, everyone. I asked the other day, I said, show me pictures of Andrew Scheer drawing a crowd. And I saw pictures of Andrew Scheer drawing a crowd, and I couldn't find any information on it for like half an hour. It took me a while to find information about this. So here are pictures. It says Arpan Khanna, and again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. It says, quote, close to 2,000 folks out supporting Andrew Scheer and the CPC HQ team in Markham last night. Momentum is building. Canadian Poly. And so here's some images. And I believe these are the same events, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize. So 2,000 folks, right? We're all seeing that? Okay. So I found, actually, it was the Toronto Malayalee Samajam. And again, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I apologize. Golden Jubilee with Arpan Khanna and Ramona today. For 50 years, Samajam has enriched the lives of families in the Malayalee community, right? So this wasn't a CPC event, because initially I was like, what is this? What kind of event is this? And it's, sure, maybe it's for the candidate, right? Like it's for, or they may have had a few minutes for the candidate. But this is, as far as I understand it, an event put on by the Toronto Malayalee Samajam, the Golden Jubilee. That was the event. And here's Andrew Scheer. And here's his tweet saying, quote, I was honored to join in on this celebration of Toronto Malayalee Samajam's Golden Jubilee last night with Arpan, right? So it wasn't really a CPC event. And I don't think all of those 2,000 people were just there to support Mr. Scheer. I don't know that that's apples to apples. So I don't know. I don't think that's really the same thing. And sure, maybe they're there to support their friend, or maybe they're giving a little bit of time to that during their Jubilee. And I'm glad that Mr. Scheer is making inroads. But I think one of the main things that Mr. Bernier rages against is pandering to small groups of Canadians. Like, that's specifically what he rages against. Like, if you are a Hindu Canadian or a Black Canadian or an Asian Canadian, Maxime Bernier says you're all Canadian and I want you all to benefit from being in this great country of Canada, right? So that's a starkly different message than, hey, you specific community, which is beautiful, fine. But we don't need to pander to specific people in order to get votes. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is how you win elections, by choosing small groups to pander to make sure they all get out to vote. Maybe that's how you do it. That's not what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump started talking about major policy issues that ticked a lot of people off and weren't getting talked about by the mainstream politicians. And hey, so does Maxime Bernier. That's the only comparison you can have, or you can make, between Trump and Bernier. They're very different people. They're very different politicians. But they talk about things that the established politicians, the people who are currently leading our parties, and down in the States, the leaders of the political parties down there, they don't want to have these conversations. So Maxime Bernier is tweeting out on this Remembrance Day, and there's a tweet stream. There's 3 of them. I'm putting them all on different tabs because they're equally important, all about immigration and integration and all of those themes, but they're starkly different. So the first one is, quote, radical multiculturalism is the misguided belief that all values and cultures can coexist in one society. They cannot. We must protect our society against this kind of barbarism. And there's an AP news video showing thousands of supporters of Islamist parties take to the streets of Karachi to protest Asia Bibi's acquittal and call for her beheading. Bibi, a Pakistani Christian woman who spent 8 years on death row for blasphemy, was freed from jail. So, and if you haven't seen these videos, this is a huge deal. Like, it's a very interesting turn of events. And I'm glad that Mr. Bernier is speaking out about this. So that's interesting and strongly worded, staking out a position, and I mean, there's no mistaking what he's saying. We must protect our society against this kind of barbarism. Thank you very much, Mr. Bernier. Tweet 2 says, quote, another example of gutter journalism from the Toronto Star. We had 2 rallies with hundreds of people. Our party had over 32,000 members, but they claim we, quote, hit a roadblock because one controversial person tried to join it. Sad to see this level of intellectual corruption. And he's responding to a Toronto Star tweet that says, hours before his new federal party's first rally in Alberta on Friday night, Maxime Bernier's People's Party of Canada hit a roadblock when a report connected the group to a possible member who's been publicly noted outed as an alleged white supremacist. So, I mean, yeah, that's the thing you're going to make the news article about, Toronto Star. Intellectual corruption is, putting it kindly, Mr. Bernier. So I guess that one doesn't really have to do with integration or immigration, but I find it interesting within the context of our first story, with Mr. Scheer pandering to a group of people, and this Conservative Party member kind of misrepresenting that. That's kind of not true, unless I'm mistaken, and I could be mistaken. This is what I found, but I could be wrong, right? So that's a little bit weird to say that, to not mention the Golden Jubilee in this tweet. Just a little strange, and strange to pander again. So back to Maxime Bernier, and the final tweet is, quote, "This talking head believes you can, quote, get along with religious fanatics who want to behead you for blasphemy. On this Remembrance Day, let's not forget those who died to protect our values and way of life," in all caps. And Maxime Bernier is responding to a tweet that's criticizing him, and I'm not going to read it out, but that's it. So that's our Remembrance Day. That's our news for this afternoon. And just interesting turns of events. We've got a politician who is able to draw crowds of, I don't know, between 300 and 500 people from what I've seen in relatively well-populated areas. And to be fair, I'm not sure that Scheer is trying to campaign that way, but it's not the campaigning that I'm talking about. It's more the message. The arguments I have on Twitter and in real life is, I just want Scheer to take a position so we can have an argument about it, right? If he says, yeah, get them out, them being the illegal border crossers who are in Canada for no good reason at all, then I'm going to agree with him, right? But I want him to take a strong position. Tell me what you're going to do, right? Maxime Bernier has taken positions on a lot of things and has generated a lot of news and a lot of talking points because of those positions. And he's walked a tightrope pretty well. The fact that his platform is not addressing climate change, but he is hoping that the free market will address it. He says there are platforms in the provincial and municipal, and he said, we already have a carbon tax. People pay 30 cents for a gallon of gasoline. We already pay carbon tax. So, I mean, again, it's a policy to have an argument about, and that's what we should be doing, not arguing he should release his policy. That's just poor politics. Put your policy out. I want to have the meat to talk about. I want to have a very clear picture of who we're electing in October, because we didn't have a clear picture about who Justin Trudeau was. People just trusted him for some strange reason. I think that the media had a lot to do with that. So that's it for me this afternoon, and thank you for watching. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca.